Shalom, good evening. This is TV7 Israel News broadcast to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories, Jerusalem reiterates that while it's deeply appreciative of the Biden administration's assistance, Israel is a sovereign state. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan stresses that the military response for the death of 3 U.S. service members by Iranian proxies is not over. Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi mocks the United States, claiming the lack of military response versus Iran derives from the Islamic Republic's military prowess. The IDF continues to deepen its activities throughout the Gaza Strip, with chief focus on the southern city of Khan Yunis, where 5 brigades are currently operational. According to the IDF spokesperson's unit, over the course of the past 24 hours alone, dozens of terror operatives have been successfully eliminated in the Gaza Strip. Moreover, during the weekly cabinet meeting earlier on Sunday, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu asserted that all in all, 17 out of the 24 Hamas battalions have been successfully annihilated.
היעד ההכרחי הוא קודם כל חיסול החמאס. כדי להשיג את היעד הזה דרושים 3 דברים. ראשית, נדרש מיטוט הגדודים של החמאס. עד היום מיטטנו 17 מתוך 24 גדודים. רוב הגדודים שנשארו הם בדרום הרצועה, ברפיח, ונטפל גם בהם. שנית, נדרשות פעולות טיהור לאחר מיטוט הגדודים. כפי שכוחותינו עושים בנחישות בפשיטות תקיפות מאוד בצפון הרצועה ובמרכזה. שלישית, נדרש לטרול התת קרקע, כפי שכוחותינו עושים בשיטתיות בח'אן יונס, ועושים בכל חלקי הרצועה, וזה דורש עוד זמן.
The Israeli Prime Minister went on to reiterate Jerusalem's determination to achieve its war objectives.
אנחנו לא נסיים את המלחמה לפני שנשלים את כל יעדיה. חיסול החמאס, השבת כל חטופינו, והבטחה שעזה לא תהווה עוד איום על ישראל. המאמצים לשחרור חטופינו נמשכים כל העת. כפי שהדגשתי גם בקבינט הרחב, לא נסכים לכל עסקה ולא בכל מחיר. הרבה דברים שנאמרים בתקשורת כאילו הסכמנו להם, כגון מה שקשור בשחרור מחבלים, אנחנו פשוט לא נסכים להם.
Meanwhile, heightened tensions between the Biden administration and Netanyahu's governing coalition amid the former's efforts to stimulate the latter into accepting a deal brokered by both Qatar and Egypt with Hamas that may further increase prospects of forcing Jerusalem into a ceasefire, drew a response by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who emphasized that Israel is a sovereign state.
ישראל היא מדינה ריבונית. אנחנו מעריכים מאוד את התמיכה שקיבלנו מממשל ביידן מאז פרוץ המלחמה. תמיכה בחימושים, תמיכה במוסדות בינלאומיים, בשליחת כוחות למרחב ועוד. אין זה אומר שאין בינינו חילוקי דעות. אבל עד היום הצלחנו להתגבר עליהם בהחלטות נחושות ושקולות.
It is important to know that while circulating reports have highlighted a looming hostage release agreement between Israel and the Islamist Hamas, the internationally designated terror group has yet to respond formally to the proposed contours of a deal that would essentially pause the fighting in Gaza, free the remaining Israeli hostages, secure the release of Palestinian prisoners incarcerated by Israel, and expand humanitarian aid to the Gaza Strip. Per a Saudi report, the main point of Hamas's contention relates to a delusion amongst the leaders of the Palestinian terror group that Israel could be extorted for the release of additional terrorists incarcerated in Israeli jails. Meanwhile, in Washington, U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, in an interview with ABC's This Week with George Stephanopoulos, stressed that these types of negotiations have a tendency to be slow until a final breakthrough is achieved.
I can't say it's imminent, but ultimately these kinds of negotiations unfold somewhat slowly until they unfold very quickly. And so it's difficult to put a precise timetable on when something might come together, or frankly, if something might come together. But sitting here today, I cannot tell you it's right around the corner.
Sullivan went on to address the American response to the latest deadly strike against U.S. forces on Tower 22 in Jordan, asserting that the United States has more in store for Iran's regional proxies.
This was the beginning of our response. There will be more steps. Some of those steps will be seen, some may not be seen, but there will be more action taken to respond to the tragic death of the 3 brave U.S. service members. And we cannot rule out that there will be further attacks from Iranian-backed militias in Iraq and Syria or from the Houthis. We have to be clear-eyed about that. And the president, in being clear-eyed about that, has told his military commanders that they need to be positioned to respond to further attacks as well.
The U.S. National Security Advisor went on to stress that in the event of a direct Iranian attack against U.S. forces, it would be met with a swift and forceful response.
I would just say, from the perspective of Tehran, if they chose to respond directly to the United States, they would be met with a swift and forceful response from us.
Meanwhile, at the Pentagon, U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin was asked about the fact that by delaying the retaliatory response against Iranian proxies, the United States essentially failed to exact the necessary price that could deter Iran and its regional tentacles from continued attacks against U.S. forces in the region.
In terms of telegraphing about strikes and whether or not people leave or will have left, I won't speculate on any of that. I would just tell you that we will have a multi-tiered response, and again, we have the ability to respond a number of times depending on what the situation is. We believe that this was done by an element of what is known as the axis of resistance, and these are Iranian proxy groups. And how much Iran knew or didn't know, we don't know, but it really doesn't matter because Iran sponsors these groups, it funds these groups, and in some cases, it trains these groups on advanced conventional weapons. And so, I think without that facilitation, these kinds of things don't happen.
In addition to strikes against some 85 Iranian proxy targets in both Iraq and Syria, the United States, alongside the United Kingdom, launched repeated attacks against Yemen's Iranian proxy, namely Ansar Allah, which is dominated by the Houthi tribe as it continues to target international shipping in the Red Sea.
Well, since the last set of strikes, we've seen the Houthis continue to attack shipping in the Red Sea. That's obviously unacceptable, it's illegal, it puts innocent people's lives at risk and has economic consequences. Now, that includes attacks, by the way, on British-linked vessels, and that's why we've acted, again, in self-defence, in a proportionate way, and together with our allies. I've been clear that I won't hesitate to protect British lives, British interests, and our diplomatic efforts are focused on bringing de-escalation and stability back to the region.
It is worth highlighting that the leader of the Iranian proxy in Yemen revealed in a televised address that China was asked by the Biden administration to try and persuade the so-called Houthis to cease their blatant attacks against maritime shipping in the strategic Strait of Bab el-Mandeb and the adjacent waterways.
ومن بوادر الفشل سعي أمريكا إلى الاستعانة بالصين من أجل أن تسعى للوساطة والإقناع بوقف مواقفنا بوقف عملياتنا المساندة للشعب الفلسطيني ضد السفن الإسرائيلية والمرتبطة بالعدو الإسرائيلي. الصين يعرف ماذا يفعله الأمريكي في تايوان، يعرف ما فعله الأمريكي في سياق الاستهداف للصين والعقوبات الاقتصادية والسعي للحد من نموها الاقتصادي. الصين يعرف السياسات العدائية لأمريكا ضده، وهو يعرف جيدا حجم المؤامرة الأمريكية من خلال مشكلة تايوان، ولذلك الصين لن يورط نفسه لخدمة أمريكا أو العمل لمصلحتها.
Meanwhile, in Tehran, Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi asserted that unless attacked, its military would avoid direct confrontations across the Middle East as its regional proxies continue to do its bidding.
شما یادتونه قبلا هر وقت میخواستن با ایران اسلامی سخن بگن مثل دیگر جاهای دنیا با زبان تهدید حرف میزدن، میگفتن گزینه نظامی هم روی میزه. الان شما نمیشنوید از این حرفا، حتی از اون طرف میشنوید که ما هیچ قصد درگیری با جمهوری اسلامی ایران نداریم. این قدرت مردم متدین همیشه در صحنه ماست که مهمترین مؤلفه قدرت در کشور ما محسوب میشه. این قدرت نیروهای جمهوری اسلامی ایران جواب او رو جواب محکمی خواهد داد.
Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News. I'd like to encourage you to pray for the peace of Jerusalem and the salvation of Israel. Moreover, it is important to highlight that TV7 Israel is a donation-based non-profit ministry with all of our productions available free of charge. Therefore, if you're blessed by our daily updates and would like to help us bear the costs, please consider making a donation. You can do so by visiting our website, www.tv7israelnews.com. I'm Jonathan Hessen, wishing you a Shavua Mevorach, and God willing, we'll see you during our upcoming TV7 Israel updates. Until then, Shalom from Jerusalem.